There are three questions that you need to be asking yourself as you walk out the purpose of your life. Hey, it is Lucas Grobot, and you are listening to Weaver and Loom. Welcome back to episode 103 of Weaver and Loom. Own the Future. Own the Future is a podcast made for and by change makers, and Weaver and Loom is a short solo segment in that podcast. And I know for the last 12 weeks or so, we have only been doing these short solo segments. I've been loving them, but we're going to begin to weave, pun intended, weave in some more interviews in this coming season. But before we do that, I want to close up this series on greatness, on being a change maker, and what does it mean to be an absolute nobody? Because if we want to do great work in this world, then we have to have the courage to work in the shadows and be absolute nobodies. We talked about yesterday, the greatest absolute nobody, the greatest shaper of culture, the greatest influencer in anyone's life. And that's right, it's your mother or it's moms. Moms are the greatest influencers in culture, and yet they are also the most unseen, the most unrecognized, the most unapplauded in the world. So shout out to all the moms. If you missed yesterday's episode 102, then you should go back and listen to that and share it with a mom that you know that is crushing life and say, hey, you are an influencer. You are one that's shaping culture more than probably anyone else that you know. So today I want to hit on three questions to kind of sum up this series that we can ask ourselves and kind of click back to as a guide, as kind of hold ourselves in tension that we can keep on moving forward to purpose, to greatness, to doing work that matters even when it's not maybe seen. So the first question is this: do you know where your value and your worth comes from? Do you know where your worth is coming from? And take a minute and stop and think, okay, what am I doing today? And is it to try to gain some sort of worth or some sort of value? Am I trying to prove something to myself or the world around me? Or am I operating out of a place of knowing that I'm loved, knowing that I was born for greatness, knowing that I was born with greatness inside me, that it's been written in the stars from before I was even born, a purpose and a destiny for my life that I have the ability to step into, that I have the ability to walk out, that it is our destiny to do great things. And now if you're like, hey, wait a minute, not all of us are born to be billionaires. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, but go back to last episode where we talk about one of the greatest people of all of society, their moms, right? You do not have to be famous to be great. So when we talk about greatness, remember, we are not talking about fame necessarily or money necessarily, but I do believe that we were created to create wealth, and that with it, we can do great things. And with knowing people, we can actually serve people. So I'm not saying that isn't it. I'm not saying that that is bad, but I am saying that is not necessarily the definition or proxy of greatness. So do you know where your value comes from? Is it coming from achievements? Is it coming from what people say about you? Is your ego and your self-esteem wrapped up in the general public's likes or dislikes of what you do or don't do? If so, that could be a problem. It needs to come from inside of knowing that you are a loved child. Number two, do you know the vision for your life? Without vision, we die. When we do not have a massive, huge, big, ginormous, gigantic vision, we are going to get lazy, get bored, get distracted. turn to entertainment, start binge watching on Netflix, and we're going to shrivel up and die, and we like a raisin, and we won't actually step into our purpose and our destiny because we never dreamed the dream of our life, because we dreamed small. And I know people who were told, literally told as kids, dream small. Don't set your hopes too high. Don't set your goals too high because you don't want to get disappointed. I know someone who was actually told that as a child. And now, alhamdulillah, praise God, as they're now older, they're breaking free of these mindsets that essentially said, hey, dream small, don't get disappointed. Don't aim for the moon, just aim for the ground. That way, for sure, you'll crash into it when you fail. But that is a sure way to have a life full of depression, of purposelessness, aimlessness, no passions, just like I'm just floating through life until I retire and die. And that is not what you were born to do. So what is the vision for your life? Have you written it down? Are you putting it in front of you? Is it clear? Is it plain? Is it growing? Are you pursuing that? We need to know our vision. We need to know it. It is one of the greatest things that we have to know. So if you don't know that, write it down. If you do know that, remind yourself of it. I have to remind myself of it on a daily basis. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? Okay, yeah, this is where I'm going. That's my North Star. This is where the direction that I'm heading. Okay, come on, let's go. I anchor myself to that vision to remind myself I'm not moving from this. I'm fully committed to the vision for my life, for the vision for my family's life. And I'm not going to get bored and drift into something else. I'm going to be fully committed to this because this is the vision of my life. What I know without a shadow of a doubt, I was placed on this earth to do. So, do you have a massive, huge, crazy 300-year vision? That's how I think. I think, what's my 300-year vision? 3, 4, 5 generations from now, how do I want my life to have impacted society and the world around me, my great, 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 great grandchildren? How is my life being able to impact them in some ways? Even if it's just pouring my entire life into my kids so that they can grow up to be successful and raise kids who are successful, not just in the financial sense of the word, but in a holistic body, soul, spirit sense of the word of success. Okay, that's number 2. So number 1, do you know where your value is coming from? Are you acting to try to get attention and get value, or are you doing it from value and you're trying to give and help and serve and uplift people around you? Number 1. Number 2, do you know the massive 300-year, 1,000-year vision for your life? I know it's hard to think that big. Oftentimes we have a hard time thinking past next weekend, but we must get a larger vision for our life besides getting the new phone, new car, new. We need that vision. Number 3, are you acting in the shadows? Are you working in the shadows? Not hiding, not lurking, but are you working? I like that. Not lurking, but working in the shadows. When no one sees, are you acting congruently to how you act when people do see, or when people are watching? Is that congruent? And the most important thing is you want to be doing in the shadows when you're not seeing stuff that you'd be proud of if it was seen, right? Because whatever happens in secret will come out into the light. Whatever is done on the interior world of ourselves, of our mind, of our heart, of our practicing our craft, our improving our writing, improving our songwriting, improving our physical health. It is what we do in secret then manifests in the public and people will see it. And if we try to showboat or front or pretend in public that we are something that we're not, we are hoping to become, but we're not, people will smell that you are not sincere. Now, I've used that word, I think, a couple times in this series, Sincere is hundreds of years ago when they had clay pots, right? They had clay jars. They would hold a jar up to the light, up to the sun, to see if there's any wax in that jar that has been used to seal it. And that was the word sincere. If there is no cracks in a pot and the pot has not been sealed with some sort of wax, then we'd say the pot is sincere. Because if it wasn't, and you put hot water into that pot, then the water would melt the wax and it would leak. Guys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, our lives, when it is put under pressure, if it is not sincere, if it is not, you can hold our lives up to the light and say, yeah, it's true. They're not hiding anything. They're not pretending about anything. They're not pretending to be a perfect pot, but really they're cracked and they just have a bunch of wax holding it together. When the pressures of life comes, the heat of the moment comes, that whatever is wax in our life, it will melt and the cracks will be seen. So this third question, are you acting in the shadows, which then builds our confidence, because then what we do in public is actually real. We're actually not fronting. We're not faking. Are you acting in the shadows? Do you have the courage to be an absolute nobody, even if no one ever knows what you did in secret? Are you still doing that work? Because that is the most important work of your life. That is all for today's episode. Thank you for being with me today. 2 things in closing. 1, my book, Anchor the Discipline to Stop Drifting, is out. If you have been enjoying these episodes, I promise you, you will enjoy my book, Anchor the Discipline to Stop Drifting. The link is in the show notes. It's on Amazon. It is a short, less than 100-page book, which I'm proud of because it was much longer and I edited, and slimmed down to get you the pure meat that will help you take action and be grounded and stop drifting through life, but be able to have a clear purpose and direction where you're not starting and stopping. Please go get that book. Or maybe you know someone, a friend, a younger brother, a younger sister who's struggling, who feels like they're drifting, feeling a little lost. Get that book for them. It will help them. Number 2, share this podcast with a change maker, with someone who is working and striving to make a difference in their life and in the world around them. It will help them because you're listening to this, so I believe it's helping you too. So share the love. And remember, I'm Lucas Grobot. You are a change maker, and this is where destiny is woven.